8, 7, 6, 5,
Your go
4,
for APU shutdown on time.
2, 1, liftoff.
Go and throttle up.
This is Escape Pod, part of the Outbreak Podcasting Network. Visit our website at outbreakpodcast.com. And now here's your hosts, Tony Brown and David Anthony.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Escape Pod. I'm David Anthony along with Tony Brown.
Hello.
What's up, Tony?
I don't know what cameras are today. I'm lost.
There's a camera right there.
Oh, yeah, that one.
They're everywhere. They're all over the place. Tony, who we got with us today?
We are hanging out with Vince May from Bulldog Manufacturing. He came in to show us awesome things made.
It's very cool. Some inventions.
So we're gonna
Like
get
it.
a cool story behind it.
That's going to be really cool. Vince, welcome.
Well, how's it going, guys?
It's going good, man. It's
Good,
going good.
good.
Welcome to our studio.
Sweet.
Yeah. Your friend, lifelong friend, Dave Snyder's been here before too.
Yes.
He survived, so I think you can survive this too.
Oh, man.
I survived everyone.
That is plus. I don't know how you get out here alive, but that's okay. So all right, so let's get started. Vince, you I guess are an electrician by trade.
Yeah, that's what I started out to be. Right after high school, Dad gave me the opportunity to buy into the company. He started the business in 1959, right after he got out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
And right after high school, he gave me and my two brothers and my sister the opportunity to buy into the company. And I bought into it, I think it was in like 1982 or so.
Wow, that's cool. And that's was May Electric.
It was. Yep.
Yeah, cool. Now is that still a monarchy in town? Is that still around?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely still here. It's, one of the better electrical companies in Owensboro. So, yeah, it's still rocking and rolling for sure.
Definitely.
So is that your plan of just from like being a kid on? Was it just because it was the family business you got into it, or were you just like, I lied?
I always thought I was going to be a mechanic, an automobile mechanic, but it just kind of worked out where, since Dad was in the business and he gave us the opportunity to buy into the business right after high school, I thought, you better give this a shot because, it's probably a good opportunity. So that's what I done.
Really cool. It's
Yeah.
really cool. And I guess, being an electrician, there's a lot of training involved. So you actually had to go through a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, I attended about, I think there was 4 years required of the apprenticeship program, and I did that. And then once I completed my 4 years, I continued to go for another 2 years to see what additional, experience or knowledge I could pick up on, from the standpoint of the apprenticeship training. So,
And then it's what is it? Is it master electrician? Is that what the
exactly, yeah. There's an apprentice, then there's a journeyman, and there's a master. And instead of me taking my journeyman's test, I went right to the master's test and passed it at about age 25, I think it was.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I was like,
awesome.
let's just go for the gold here. So it was a 6-hour written test. I think I had to go to maybe Madisonville or Paducah to take that.
Right.
So it went by pretty quick, but I barely passed, because it was a lot of math and
Yeah.
a whole lot of stuff I had to remember, and I only had, part of the time I could use the code book, and the rest of it I had to just rely on my knowledge and what I, was able to remember or whatever.
Right. But you did it.
Yes.
So once you become the master
The
electric-
master. Yes, you can call me the master.
the
if you want.
master. So once you become the master, so at that point, do you have the skill and knowledge to do everything from like small house wiring up to like the big industrial?
I've always tell people there's no substitute for experience. It doesn't matter what you do or how much training you have. You still got to get out there and get the experience. But at least having the master license and that knowledge that you acquire in that, in your apprenticeship program, you have the base, basically to start on and get started. And it's definitely beneficial because a lot of guys, they won't go to the trouble of getting their background knowledge or their book knowledge, and they kind of get to a point in their career and they just kind of stall out because they can't seem to get any further because their lack of understanding of how electricity truly works.
Wow. It's cool.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's shocking, actually.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I've always been kind of scared to dabble in is electricity, just because just being a dude, I'm like, I can fix that, and then not paying attention and just get that little pop, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Let me
Well-
hire somebody to do this.
It is an invisible killer, truly.
Yes,
I mean,
truly is.
Yeah, it can be pretty scary even now. I've been working with it for years and years, and they say most of your accident fatalities happen in your senior years because a guy gets so comfortable doing what he does, he thinks he can't make a mistake, and that's when it gets him.
That makes
That's when it
sense.
is.
Just skipping
That's
over
when he
little
gets in.
things you've done for
So,
so many
yeah.
years. You just
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, my grandfather was a master electrician. He was, and of course, he opened his own business, which was Abrams Electric Supply Company.
Oh, I remember that.
which
absolutely.
which they actually supplied for a lot of the the people that actually did the construction and the work like
Yep.
what you did.
Yep.
And then of course my father and my uncle took it over for a while. And then of course we had some tough times in the Reagan years where a lot of construction wasn't going on, and ended up having to to close that down. And then he went into his other passion, which was photography. Wedding photography is what Dad went back into.
Yeah,
Because
I remember
he actually was a photographer for the Messenger Inquirer for a while as
Mhm.
as a beat photographer. But he electrician. He was also a master electrician as well too. But I was always afraid of that. When there was one time my grandfather was working on a house, rental house, and when he's like, "Hey boy, here, get this 2x4, and if you see me shake,"
Yeah.
he said, "You
Yes.
just swing that as hard
Yeah.
as you can." I'm like, "What?"
what
Yeah.
the hell?
Yeah, he's like, so if he got electrocuted, he wanted me to knock him off.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Scared me to death.
Wow.
Guys, yeah, that's a big thing in the.
Because that was old. That was, I mean, this is a long time ago, but
Oh, they still
man.
use that same theory nowadays. I mean, I hear
Really?
electricians
Wow.
still this days, man. If you see me get tied up in that, take that shovel, knock me off there. It's like, no, I don't think so. How about we just make sure it's dead first? That'd be the best thing.
Yeah,
You know?
let's do it the right way.
Yeah, that's never thought of that. Good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, so that's why I never pursued being an
Yeah.
electrician, because that scared the hell out of me when I was a little kid.
Yeah. Well, I guess everybody starts out, in the residential world, but I'm primarily an industrial electrician by
Right.
trade.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the big money's at, and it's more challenging as far as, your experience level and what you're exposed to. After a while, the residential world can kind of get a little bit boring, I guess.
Right. Right. But I got to ask you this: do you still have occasionally family members or friends and be like, there's a light switch over here, and can you come up? You're an electrician. Can you come over here and fix it?
You'd be surprised how many friends I had during the ice storm. That called me. Hey, man, we went to school together. I was like, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
But
hook
that's
a brother
okay. Yeah, but that's okay. That's what it's all about.
up? Sorry, that was too funny. I could see that too. I could just
Oh,
see your
absolutely.
phone lighting up like a Christmas tree. And
Well, during the ice storm, I'd leave before daylight. Because so many people in Owensboro was without power, and I'd go down there and our phone just rang off the hook, and we had to put everybody in line, and we had 50 or 60 houses that need power back on them, and I'd go in before daylight, and then I'd come home way after dark. I was getting home like 7 o'clock at night, and then my wife would say, "Hey, so and so called and wants you to call him back." I was like, "Really?" And I'm running on generator power at home myself, and it's
Right.
like, it was crazy.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
It was.
But they're thinking, oh, it's my buddy.
Yeah.
my buddy from
Mhm.
high
I'm
school.
like, who are you?
Who are you?
Well, I was a senior when you were a freshman, so
Yeah.
I was your friend. Remember?
No, but it's all good.
yeah. But like I said, I just assumed that would happen to.
It still does.
Yeah, it
Oh,
still
yeah,
does.
it still does.
Okay, so we have his card.
Yeah.
So
And we got that light up there.
We do. If we have any problems, hey. So since you're here?
Yeah. Oh, dang it. I left my tools at home.
Damn it! No, well, actually, you did bring some tools with you.
But not for that.
Oh well, okay. No, we're just teasing with you. So let's get started on there. You had I guess been working in the industry for a while.
Yep.
And then you kind of, I guess, you found a need in yourself, something that you needed that you thought probably could be done better.
Well, over the years, mostly working in these industrial facilities, some of this larger industrial cable that's installed in some of these facilities, it's a lot of times it's its size is referred to as 500 MCM. It's about the same diameter as a quarter, approximately. It's a little bit under an inch, something like that.
That's
And
thick.
and it was a continuous struggle working with this cable, throughout those years as I was working out in the field. And you would always see some kind of makeshift bender that was welded together, a piece of pipe with some couplings welded on it, or some kind of piece of rebar that a guy would bend or make some kind of shape or form. And I kept seeing a commonality, I guess, between all these hodgepodge of tools that I would see at these industrial, power plants, large industrial facilities that their in-house electricians would have made themselves, and they all seem to have a commonality to them. So, I always felt like I wanted to try some kind of product ideal. I've always got several ideas, and I felt like I wanted to try one. So
Hmm.
I I had several ideas in mind, but I settled on the cable bender for this larger industrial size cable because I felt like it was an easy design. It's a very simple design, the one that I had in mind. And I was like, and I felt like I have some basic skills in manufacturing,
Hmm.
I guess you'd say. And I always felt like, hey, I can make this product myself and not have to rely on somebody as far as actually making this thing. So, I sat down and started, sketching out a few things and kind of took it from there and started making some prototypes.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yep.
And so with the prototypes though, I mean, is it kind of like a trial and error?
Well, I had made a couple of my own tools along the way when I was working, and I had a real good idea what I felt like the tool needed to do.
Hmm.
Um, so I made about two or three different prototypes, and by about the third prototype, maybe the fourth, I settled on a final design. And I was working with a friend of mine, David Higdon, that works over in Southern Tank, and he's my go-to guy for all my drawings because that's what he does over there at Southern Tank, and he's been with me from the very beginning of this project back in 2010.
Wow, that's great.
So he's always, we've been friends, since grade school, and he's the guy I always go to do the drawings and stuff. So
Hmm.
settled on a final design. And once I settled on that final design, I took it to patent attorney over in Evansville. I
Hmm.
kind of searched around, found that there was attorneys in Louisville and one in Evansville, and I thought,
Hmm.
well, we'll just roll with this guy that's closest. So I set up an appointment with this guy, and so I took my prototype over there, and it was a complete product. It had a label on it. It was in a box. It
Wow.
was basically, I settled, this is what we're going to do right here. And he said, well, that's good. At least you know what you want, because most people that come through the door just have an idea of what they want their product to look like, but you actually have a product.
Hmm.
So I said, well, let's roll with it. Let's start the patent process because I need to reach out to people and see what they think of the product and whether they think there's an actual market for it. But I couldn't do any of that till the product was patent
Patented, right?
pending.
Yeah,
Patent
so
pending.
somebody be like, "Oh, that's a great idea. I
Yeah.
think I'll make one of those myself."
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So with the patent, that keeps anybody from taking your idea, slapping another name on it, and selling
Right.
it for them.
Yes, if it's even, he tried to cover all of my bases as far as if you cut the tool in half and you tried to manufacture half of it, either
Right.
one end or the other of the tool, then basically that would be a patent infringement. So
Wow. That's
he tried to cover all my bases on any way that it could be remanufactured, I guess, by someone else. So
well. That's good that they got that much
yeah,
detail into it.
yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to get all that right. So when we sent all that paperwork into the patent office.
So from that point, from when you brought your lawyer your finished thing, how long before you actually got your patent? Was
It's
it a year's
about
process?
18 months.
Wow. So you
And
just had to sit and wait.
yeah, but being it was patent pending, I was able to, promote the product at that point because I was covered under patent pending laws.
Okay.
So
cool.
I was
Okay.
good to go just the day I walked out of his door after I cut him that check and said, let's get rolling. So you give him, a check to get the thing started. And then a few months later, then you go through a formal application that you have to do. And then A few months later, then you got to go in and take care of another phase of it. It's about 3 phases or 3 steps that you got to go through to get that patent to take off.
Mm. Well,
Wow.
definitely not a simple process.
It's not, after I was halfway through the patent process, and I had my product, I was, already marketing the product or attempting to get ready to market the product.
Right.
And, I asked him, I said, now that you know me and you know my product, what chance do you think I have? And he said, well, I think you have better than a 50% chance because you don't just have an idea, you have an actual product
Right.
here and it serves an actual need, and you know where you're going with it.
Right.
And I said, so out of all the people that come apply for patents, not just in his office, but patents in general, I said, how many of those people are successful? And he said, only about 3%.
Oh, wow.
I was like, 3%? I said, you should have
me.
told me that in the beginning. We might not have tried this because that's a ridiculous number.
Right.
I like to stroke out on that. 3%? You gotta be kidding me.
But you do have a patent now, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was worth it. You're
And
one
I
of the
got
3%ers.
Yeah. Well, 3% are successful.
There you go. There you go.
He said, and I asked him also, when I was fixing to walk out of there, I said, what is the best advice you can give me? And he said, you have got to be persistent. He said that most people, after about a year, they've got their product idea. They just they don't see it taking off and they'll just die off. And that's why only about 3% of the people ever make it because they won't stick with their product.
Right.
So every day when I was getting up and I didn't want to go into the shop, or every night when I was going down there to put tools together, I just kept rolling that in the back of my mind. This guy said, be persistent.
Yeah.
You've got to be persistent. So anytime I don't want to get out there and do it, it's like, this is what you got to do. And all the audio books that I've listened to from some of the very successful people, they talk about how, they would work their full-time jobs or their, during the day, and then they'd
Right.
work on their products at night, till 10 and 11 o'clock at night. And they did that for years till this product.
So is that what you were doing? Doing your daily grind, making the paycheck, and then whatever spare time you had, you're working on
Exactly.
these?
Basically, I did, I designed the product in 2010 and I was still one of the owners, of the family electrical business. And
Mhm.
I felt like make that 100% commitment, for this persistence, that's required. I'm going to have to step away from the contracting business where I can focus on this exclusively.
Right.
So I think it was February in 2011. I walked away from the contracting business, because I knew I had to make a full commitment on this. So
That's the moment it became real.
yeah, a little too real, but I'm in 100% and I'm still in. I mean, I'm still there day and night. This is what I do.
Yeah.
This is all I do.
Yeah.
Every day we build tools, try and figure out better ways to get the product out there. That's my biggest struggle, is getting the product. It's hard to take a concept idea, and put it into reality. And once you even get a product that's like, okay, this is ready to go to market, then what do you do with it? How do you get this thing into
Right.
everybody's hands?
And especially since it's a specialty tool,
It is.
it's something that like people wouldn't go into Walmart and buy.
Exactly. So that is a struggle in itself. You don't need the product, every day.
Right.
You might need it once a week or maybe just every other week, but when you need it, it's invaluable.
Right. Right. So let's so the one that I guess the first design that you have,
Mhm.
can you go ahead and hold that up and let's
This is the cable bender. This is what I call the Bulldog Bender original. It's for 500 MCM and smaller.
Mhm.
And what you'll notice about the tool is the placement of the dowels. And these dowels are 90 degrees from each other. And what that's about, you might see me come in here and hook the cable with this end and break it over a little bit. And then I might come back with this end, break it over a little bit more. And then I might come back with the other end and finish it off.
Gotcha.
Finish
Okay.
the bend. So that's why they're 90 degrees from each other.
It's cool.
This end of the tool is kind of in the shape. I always refer to this end of the tool as the dog bone end of the tool.
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, I kept thinking, I'm going to need some kind of a mascot or something, and I
Right.
want something kind of tough and rugged. So I was like, well, I always talk about this in being the dog bone end of the tool. Let's just find a bulldog, a cartoonish one that kind of looks tough and rugged. So
Yeah.
I purchased the rights to one of the characters off of online, purchased the
Mhm.
rights to that dude. And I picked one out that his mouth was positioned just right so I could Photoshop the tool into the dog's
Oh,
mouth.
nice.
So you'll notice on some of the artwork, the bender's in the, in the dog's mouth. So
Right.
we kind of elaborated from there. It went to, we named the tool, the Bulldog Bender. And then I was like, well, let's just name the company Bulldog Manufacturing. So that's how we
Very
kind of,
cool. That's how it came all together, huh?
yeah, that's where we got to start.
That's
Definitely.
awesome. That's awesome.
It's so weird. It's just, it looks so simple that it's kind of shocking that no one had thought of that so many years ago when they're out there struggling. Like you're saying, some dude over there bending some rebar to
Mhm.
get in there and bend it, and then
I hear that same comment almost every trade show that I go to. The first trade show we went to was in Washington, D.C., and I think that was in 2012, right when we were ready to, take the product to market or whatever. And I called, the trade show manager. This is the largest electrical trade show in the United States.
Yeah.
So I gave this gal a call and I said, hey, check out my product online. It's a cable bender that I've designed, and I'm ready to go to market with this product, and I'd really like to come to your trade show. And I said, check it out and see what you think. And she called back. She said, yeah, you definitely would fit in. And I said, that's a good deal. We want to give this a try. She cut us a deal on our booth space. We loaded up all of our gear. I had to design a booth in a 10 by 10 area.
Right.
We had to come up with, tables to set up in the booth. It had to be a carpeted booth. There was restrictions, so many feet back. It can only be so tall, your displays and all that. We had to come up with banners, brochures, all the promotional items. We had to get all that put together in about 30 to 45 days
Right.
prior to, heading out to Washington. So we loaded up my daughter's vehicle in the back of a 2-car trailer.
Yeah.
Pulled the trailer with all the trade show equipment and her vehicle, so we'd have some kind of means of transportation other than the dually around, Washington there. And
That's awesome.
so we headed up there. Took about 16 hours to get there. It rained most all day while we were heading that direction or
man.
whatever. And that's the exact same time that they were having the government shutdown.
Oh,
So
no.
yeah, so as soon as we get there, basically the whole place is shut down. And we're
Oh,
like,
no.
we couldn't go see the Smithsonian, all that stuff. But our main focus was to obviously get to this show
Right.
and get set up. So it was very nerve-wracking. I mean, extremely nerve-wracking, because here's your major manufacturers that you see in all the Home Depots and the Lowe's
Mhm.
and the Menards and the electrical supply houses. All those guys are there with their multi-$1,000 booths, and they've got their 10 or 12 man crew sitting there. And then here we are with, it was me and my wife, Kara, my son, Austin, and my daughter, Renee.
There you go.
And it was just the 4 of us. And we're there early. We're the ones setting up our own booth, and they had their, they had a crew come in, was paying them to set their booth up.
Yep.
And, it was very nerve-wracking, but we got the booths all set up and, prior to the show. And then showtime, it was game on at that point. And we had to be one of the most busiest booths at that whole place all 3 of those days.
That is fantastic.
It was crazy. I mean, the very first day was a Sunday, and we never even had an opportunity for lunch.
Wow.
I mean, our booth, we always had 6 or 8 guys there. Sometimes it'd be a dozen guys, asking questions. What is this? Where have you been? And some of the same comments that you guys were making about seeing other stuff welded together. How come this is such a simple design? How come you haven't, nobody's come up with this product? And then the big players are coming over there. Who are you?
Right.
And it's like, it's just us, we spent a lot of time getting ready for that first show. I mean, the guys, me and Austin, we had shirts, fixed up and had the gals in dresses that, bulldog dresses, and
Mm-hmm.
they got all dolled up, for the show. So, but the girls out front,
Yeah.
get the guys moving around a little bit, and then I'd kind of move in the scene there and say, all right, this is what we've got, and this is how it works.
Yeah.
This is why I designed it the way that I did, and this is who I am, and that kind of thing. So we met with an electrical distributor while we were there, like day one, and he was coming over going, whoa, wait, we need to talk. So
That's great.
we immediately picked up a distributor
That's awesome.
while we were there, and so that was very exciting. And a lot of people, I mean, there was people from other countries that attend this show. It's so big. I mean, there's people from the UK that attend the show. I had a guy from Korea that was wanting to be a distributor. People from the Philippines were coming over, to the booth, wanting to see what we had.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's an industrial tool that's going to make something like that easier and a lot of growth and stuff. So
It's definitely a time-saving tool without a doubt. And the fact that it's a manual cable bending tool kind of sets me apart from some of the other that have a mechanical apparatus to them. So there's no batteries to go down, no hydraulic fluid, that's needed in the tool or anything like that. So
Good old elbow grease.
exactly.
And then you talked about, go ahead and pull it up, or you talked about the kind of a redesign kind of a.
This is what I came up with after I came out with what I call the original bender. This is what I call the Bulldog Bender Pro. And what's different about it, it has this square hole in the middle of the handle that allows this 15-inch adapter to fit through the handle. And what the adapter allows you to do that sets me apart from the other benders on the market is it'll actually reach back in the panel
Okay.
and bend the cable right inside the box. And it's the only cable bender on the market that has an adapter like this to reach inside the enclosure and bend the cable, and I own the patent to it.
That's
Awesome.
fantastic.
So that's if you've already got wire feeding down from the ceiling, it's already fed down. You're looking at it, and you're like, crap, how am I going to get in there?
Exactly.
thought of
Sometimes
that.
sometimes it might come into the side of the enclosure,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you've only got 6 or 8 inches to bend this cable, to go up to its termination point. So you can actually stick the adapter in there and actually bend it right in that 6 or 8 inches, where before you might have to go past that termination and double that cable back around and then bring it up to the termination point. So
Right.
you end up with more cable inside the enclosure, which is more difficult to get formed. With my bender, you can just take the cable as soon as it comes into the enclosure, get it to turn and go right up to the termination point.
So basically, you're also saving materials as well.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a time-saving tool. Even after, one of the first trade shows that we went to, even there's a larger industrial sized cable, 600 and 750 MCM.
Mm-hmm.
I came out with a 500 MCM bender first because that's primarily about as big a cable as we use in this area.
Right.
Because once you go past 500, then you got to have special crimpers. The terminal lugs that go on the end of the cable are harder to get a hold of. So a lot of my customers was asking me, do you have anything for 600 or 750?
Mm-hmm.
So I designed a larger bender that's 4 inches longer. The dowels are 1/8 of an inch bigger in diameter.
Wow.
It's the same exact design. It's just a little bit bigger, and we call it the Bulldog Bender Big Daddy.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's for the 600 to 750. And when I first introduced, I had 2 prototypes basically that I took to a trade show, the Big Daddy Bender, and they were trying to buy that prototype on the spot.
Wow.
At that trade show. I was like, whoa, these haven't even cooled off yet. I had just made them that week before the show, but
Right.
I had to figure out how to manufacture these tools, and one of my goals was always to make every tool look exactly the same.
Right.
So when it comes out of the box, it doesn't matter. I make them basically all the same. So I had to learn how to make the handles. We had to learn how to make the dowels and how to countersink the dowels for the boat where the boat was flush with the top of the dowel. And there was a lot to getting all that figured out. This is what I call the dowels or the work area of the tool.
Mm-hmm.
These dowels here are knurled. And what that's about is some of the cable manufacturers are manufacturing a cable with a really slick outer jacket. It's kind of like it has a WD-40 on it.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to have any kind of lubricant to get it installed into the conduit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I designed the dowels with the knurled,
So
the
grips?
knurling them. So it has a grip. So I had to learn how to knurl, and I had to learn how to knurl consistently.
Yeah.
So I did that. I learned how to do that on one of my machines in my shop. And I was knurling for a couple of years, and I called the manufacturer of the knurling tool, and I had a question for them. And I explained, they said, well, how are you knurling? And I said, well, basically, I'm setting the part up in the lathe. I put the knurler on there, and I torque it down to 12 foot-pounds. And they said, what do you mean you're torquing it down? And I said, well, I'm using a torque wrench to set the torque because it's a scissor knurler. So as you exert force, it closes down on the two little wheels that puts the knurling on there. And well, we've never heard of that before. Shoot us a video. I'm like, you guys have never even heard of. I was like, how's anybody else being consistent on their knurling? They said, well, we just generally tighten it down till it feels right. And I said, I had to have something more consistent than that. So
right.
I came up with 12 foot-pounds was the magic number for me.
Right.
So
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we had to learn how to manufacture, all the parts. The label, we had to design the label, for each tool piece. Each one has its own barcode and its own part number. We designed the label, with the stars and stripes theme.
Yeah.
Because it is obviously an American-made product.
Right.
A lot of people ask me, well, who's making it? And I'm like, we're making it. And no, who's actually making it? Look, come to my shop. This is what we do every day.
Yeah, yeah.
I am the manufacturer. I'm the designer, and we're the manufacturer. I mean, this is what we do. The actual label, my son Austin learned Adobe Illustrator
Very cool.
basically overnight. I bought him the Adobe Illustrator software, and I went to bed, and by daylight, he had the Adobe Illustrator mastered.
Awesome. That's great.
And, I woke up all rested, and here he is, bloodshot eyes, comes out of his room, and he's like, I got it. So he's the one that designs, actually puts the final touch on what I want it to look like, and we kind of work together on it. And then
that's
come
really
up with
cool
different
that you guys are,
Oh, yeah.
family together like that too. That's really cool.
It's
I
pretty
like that.
sweet, and he's the one that designs all the brochures, and all the paperwork, the instructional sheets, that go in the tool sets. There's an instructional sheet, that goes in with each one. And then there's little, some paperwork in there where I just tell my customers I really appreciate them buying the product and trusting us and all that.
That's cool. And you told us before we got started that these have a lifetime warranty?
Yeah, exactly. I've sold these benders into the thousands at this point, as far as the number of benders that we've manufactured and sold. And I've offered a lifetime warranty from day one. And to this day, we still don't have any warranty claims.
That's awesome.
And this is like our 5th year manufacturing these. The only thing we ever get is, where do I get more of them?
Yeah.
Or do you make one for this size cable or whatever? New for 2017. Last year, I introduced a smaller bender, and this targets kind of the residential world or the residential guy. It's 4 inches shorter. It's 14-inch handle, and we call it the Bulldog Bender Pup.
Pup.
Yep.
Hold it up just a little higher. There we go.
This is new for 2017, and we also have the Pro version, that has the square hole in the middle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like the other one. Okay,
like
gotcha.
the bigger one. All the tool sets, whether you're buying the 500 MCM or the 600 to 750 or the Pup Bender, they all have the Pro version that has the adapter, because that seems to be a very strong need in the market, or in the industrial world. for the one with the adapter. But these dowels here, I think it was in 2016 that I designed the smooth dowels. It's kind of concaved.
Mhm.
Some of the customers were telling us that their inspectors was giving them a little bit of heartache over the thumbprint that it was leaving on the outer jacket, that the knurled dowels was leaving on the outer jacket of the cable.
Right.
So felt like it was necessary to come up with something a little less aggressive, I guess you would say,
Right. Right.
for some of the smoother bends. So I came up with these smooth dowels and introduced those. I think it was in 2016. And so the tools can either, the majority of the tools are sent out with the knurled dowels, probably 90% of the tools.
Mhm.
But once I introduced the smooth dowel, some of the customers would either order an extra set of smooth dowels because they're field interchangeable. So that way they have the best of both worlds.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and it works really good. So some of my customers are even, they'll put one smooth dowel on one side and then a knurled on the other.
Okay.
So, and that's working pretty well, so you can actually cradle the cable in the smooth dowel, but you still get a little bit of bite, with the knurled dowel on the opposite side.
That's
that's a
so
pretty
great
sweet deal.
that they're able to kind of modify
Mhm.
just a little bit.
Yeah, the label, we have the labels made Top Graphics in St. Louis
Mhm.
because I'm very particular on the clarity of the label and how it looks.
Oh yeah.
And they have the printing press that gave me the print that I was looking for because the substrate or the paper underneath the printing is actually, it has kind of a metallic silver base to it,
Mhm.
which bleeds through on some of the lettering on the tool.
That makes it
So,
pop for sure.
yeah. And it's kind of the red and the blue are a little bit translucent, and you can see some of that silver bleeding through. So very particular on the way I wanted that all to look.
Well, I mean, and I mean, it's your baby. You know what I mean? It's
And it definitely makes the company name pop.
Yeah.
There's no doubt you're not searching like who made this,
yeah.
Who
And I
are
really
these
like the
guys?
way you've like the theme, like you said, with the smaller one being the pup, and
Yep.
that's really good marketing tie-in. That's
Yeah,
great.
and some of my customers are even asking me about larger benders. I custom built a 3-piece set for the city of Burbank in California.
Wow.
They contacted me and said they had a cable that was 2¼ inches in diameter.
Wow.
And it was what they call 1,000 MCM, and it had a 15,000 volt insulation on it. So that's what added to its overall diameter of the cable. And they're
Right.
like, "Can you build us one of your benders that will work with this cable?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I
cool.
custom built
So
2 benders.
How long
It
was
was
that thing?
It was 36 inches long at the end of the day. The dowels, I think, were 1½ inch in diameter.
Man.
So it was but we built 2 of them, one for us that we take to the trade shows. And then, I
Right.
built those guys one, and we call it the Bulldog Bender Behemoth.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was made out of an aircraft grade aluminum. So it was lighter
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the steel tool sets that I have. So,
And is it a one-man operation? Can one guy get a hold of that?
Yeah.
And just put his weight into it?
yeah, he can. I could see it being a little bit challenging. It's not going to be a boy doing it.
Right. Right.
It's going to be a man. But if you're working with
Yeah.
that size cable, it's going to be a big dude up there anyway, most of the time. But
Yeah. So, and then have you heard back from them after they received the tool? And
yeah, they said the tool seemed to be working fine. But I was hoping maybe they would place additional orders. But I do have people asking me about that big bender, and I also have in mind a bender for the 1,000 MCM cable, which
Wow.
is like I said, I started out with a 500 MCM cable, and then I designed one for the 600 to 750. And then there's 1,000 MCM, and I have customers, and I'm like, yeah, I can definitely build you that bender, and we're going to call it the Bulldog Bender Granddaddy.
There you
So
go.
what takes that size cable? Is that cable powering any things, or is that just for one big mechanical?
Generally, it's the main incoming power to the facility. and it may go across the building, or it may just be a short distance from the main disconnecting means or the main breaker,
Right.
where it kills, all the power to the
And
facility.
this could be plants like an automotive plant or something like huge like that, right?
Any of the large industrial plants that you see, traveling down the roadways, off the interstate, with the big stacks and
Right.
just multiple cars in the parking lot, all of them. And, you don't really have to be that large of a facility to be using the 500 MCM cable. I mean, just about all the factories here in town probably have some of the 500 MCM in them, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's awesome. That
I never thought about cables being so massive, just because I'm so used to things you plug in the wall, and that seems to bring all the electricity I've ever needed. So
yeah.
running that.
That's all.
It's
It
crazy.
really is cool. We really are impressed with your tool that you. That just sounded really wrong, didn't it? Well, you've impressed us with your tool there, Vince.
Calm down.
But no. Now you've also you talked about some of the, like the trade shows and things you've been to. Like you said you might have awarded for that.
Yeah, and we continue to go to that largest electrical trade show, the NECA show, every year.
Yeah.
And in 2015, we introduced an all aluminum tool that was made out of aircraft grade aluminum in the sizes here that I offer. I introduced an aluminum version that was lighter weight, and that year it was in San Francisco. So to get all of my products and my trade show equipment to San Francisco, I custom built a shipping crate, and I had to make it as light as possible because to move my products out onto the floor to my booth, they charge $1 a pound. So, some of these tools, they weigh 5, 7, 9, and 12 pounds.
Right.
So if you're going to display some of those, and you got all your tabletops and all of your tables, and then, I have what's called a demonstrator, and you can see it on some of my videos or website. It's a disconnect, and I show how the cable bender works, and I call it the demonstrator, and it's on a big square base, and it's a big, heavy job. So I custom made, my shipping container as light as possible. It's red, Bulldog Manufacturing on the outside and all that. But we shipped all that to San Francisco, about 2 weeks in advance. That's a little bit nerve-wracking, trying to make sure that you have absolutely everything that you need for that show in that box.
Man, yeah.
It's like you got to sit there, you got to set it all up, set your booth up, mock it up somewhere in some floor space.
Right.
And you got everything you got to have. And then you got to try and think about the stuff you don't have, or the stuff that gets broke or whatever, along the way. So, but yeah, we shipped everything to San Francisco in 2015, and I entered the lighter weight version that's made out of aircraft grade aluminum into what they call the showstopper contest. And we ended up winning one of the best new product awards in 2015.
That's fantastic.
And,
That's
awesome. It kind of took me back, we were there at the show, and, the booth was really busy, and I was hopping, trying to make things happen or whatever. And my daughter Renee come up and said, Dad, a lady come by, and she said she's got an award for you. And I said, that's good, hon. So I just kept on, trying to make things happen. It was pretty busy.
Yeah.
And later on, I was like, what was you talking about? And she said, you won the showstopper. She has an award for you. I'm like, really?
That's awesome.
So here we are, just 3 or 4 of us, at the show, competing against these big manufacturers,
right?
That sell worldwide. The guy that had the team that has the 12 guys, there at their booth, and they all just come in, the day of the show, and they have all these people
in the morning, had time for a good breakfast.
Exactly, and all that, here we are dog tired from getting there and setting up and all of that, we ended up winning the showstopper, and then the big dogs are coming over going, who are you?
Yeah, imagine. They're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How did you win this? That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
So that was pretty cool. It's 2015.
And your website is bulldogmanufacturing.com,
Mhm.
where you can, I assume, purchase all the tools that you have available through that website.
We primarily try and sell through distributors,
Right.
for the most part.
Okay.
We are on Amazon, but we do sell, to our customers that maybe we've met at the trade shows,
Right. But
kind of deal.
through the website, they'll be able to find who to go buy your product
on the
from.
website. Yeah, it
Exactly.
definitely has my distributors listed there. And every once in a while, I'll get a phone call that somebody says, I can't get my distributor to work with me, or we don't have that distributor here
Right.
in our area, and we're needing one of these vendors. And I'm like, I'll hook you up.
That's
What
awesome.
are you looking for here?
Right.
So it's not unusual for these guys to be out here in the construction industry and realize that they've got a big wire pull, and somehow they've got to get this huge cable made up in this really tight space.
Right.
And it's not unusual for us to get a call and to next day air one of these products. We've done that on, we took an order today.
Mhm.
2 of the Big Daddy vendors going to North Carolina next day air.
There
And
you
they'll
go.
pay, it'll cost 50% of the tool cost just to get this thing there overnight.
Overnight, right.
When it goes to California, it's half, what the
Wow.
tool cost could be,
Right.
to ship this thing, to have it in California by 8 a.m. the next day.
That's got to make you feel good to know that the demand is growing for your product, something that came up in your mind.
Absolutely. Our sales go up about 25 to 30% every year.
That's great.
So it's finally starting to pay off, where more and more people are going to their supply houses and asking for the product.
Yes.
They might walk into one of the large supply houses and say, "Hey, we need the Bulldog Bender as soon as you can get it." And that supply house will call me and go, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Basically. And
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, look, I got a couple of videos out there. One is a demonstration video where I've got some old cable that I pulled out of one of the local facilities here.
Cool.
And you can see me kind of ratcheting around on that cable. I mean, the outer jacket's in pretty poor shape, but that's not due to the tool exerting any force on the cable. That's the way
Right.
the cable was when I pulled it out of the
Right,
facility.
right.
So we got together on a Sunday morning, me and Austin and another friend of mine, and we shot all that video at one of the new facilities that was built in town. And I asked him if I could come in there on Sunday. And I knew the owner. He said, "Yeah, here's the key." So we got in there Sunday morning while traffic was quiet and everything, and shot video, of the different ways to use the tool. So that's kind of a demo video that I have on YouTube. It's, it's a little bit short, I guess.
That's all right.
But
That's great.
I also have a specs video where I actually sit down and talk to maybe a sales team.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more in depth, on why I designed the tool the way that I did, the proper way to use the tool, and the different ways that I sell it.
Wow. Okay.
So that, a sales team, that calls, I can just tell him, "Hey, go to my specs video on YouTube," and you'll be able to sit down, and at the end of that 4.5 or 5 minute video, you'll understand this product in its entirety and be able to promote it to your customers. So
that's great. We're gonna have all the links to all that on our show notes.
Yeah,
on our
sweet.
on our webpage, and also on the YouTube video. Of course, this is going to go out through iTunes and YouTube both.
Yeah.
Now, there's one more thing we wanted to touch base with you as we wrap this up. You have another little invention that you came up with.
Yes, sir.
Called the
hip
hip
clip.
clip.
Yeah.
I like that.
I recently designed this product. This is basically a prototype that I've put together. We're going to introduce this in, this year for a new product for 2018. I came up with this idea last summer. I was working on a job site, and I didn't have my tape with me, and the guy seemed like he's always looking for his tape. So I was like, why didn't a guy have his tape just on his belt or something all the time? So it just dawned on me to make the hip clip, where a guy can actually hook the clip on his belt and carry his tape with him throughout the day. So
You got one there too,
Yeah,
right? You can hold that up
basically,
there. You can show that too.
this is what it looks like.
There you
Uh,
go.
And it comes in pretty handy for a guy that a lot of time he'll use different colors for different voltages. So
Mhm.
he can have a couple of these, on his tool bag. He can have one for his 240 volt or one for his 480 volt. So
You will get that back, by the way. He's just checking it out.
that's no problem. Yeah, that's no problem. But we're working on the packaging, for this product. Austin and I designed the way the product looks. It was kind of my concept on what I wanted it to look like. And then I just told him, I said, hey, I want this thing hooked on a pair of pants,
Yeah.
and then I want the tape kind of hanging on the leg, and I want the chain to pass through, the tape, and then, the holder at the bottom.
It looks great. The marketing looks
Yeah,
great.
I
on
think the
that.
packaging is awesome. I mean,
That's super cool.
He's really put it together good.
It's definitely an eye-catching package.
Yeah, definitely.
And how old's your son?
Austin's right at 30.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So, I made it short enough so that, I can put it inside a bubble wrap, and I actually mail this thing out and keep the shipping a little
Mhm.
bit less than, regular parcel would be. So we scrunch down, the height of it.
Yeah.
I've got the hanger spot on top, here, but we're going to see if we can't get this into maybe some of the major distribution chains.
Yeah, that's something that I could see at a lot of, larger market stuff that, because it can be beneficial for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously, your in mind would be the, the electrical tape type thing. But I
Right.
mean, I could see something like that being handy for artists and things like that too, that work with those type of mediums.
We also have a version for masking tape for a painter.
Perfect.
So he
Yeah.
can carry his duct tape with him, or his 2-inch wide masking tape, or his 3/4 wide, whatever he carries with him. So I have a version for the painter as well, that has a little bit wider T-post on the bottom,
Yeah.
for
and just your everyday handyman. That'd be great. too.
Absolutely.
Guys that work on apartments as handyman.
Yep.
That'd be something perfect. for
because
them.
when a guy's up on a ladder doing a wire pull or whatever, he doesn't necessarily want his tool bag on him all the time. A lot of guys nowadays seems like they're just putting more tools in their pockets,
Right.
more so than wearing the pouch. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good for plumbers, HVAC techs, obviously electricians, but also even in the film industry. I understand that the camera crew will use different colored tapes to put
Gaffer
on the
tapes,
floor,
yep.
for the guys for placement of the actors.
Hmm.
So, I think it's going to be a really cool product, and I think it's going to, really take off once I'm ready to roll with it. I mean, we're doing finalizing the
Patent pending
artwork
on it, right?
Patent
Patent pending, right?
absolutely, yeah. We definitely started with that before I showed it to anybody.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, so it's patent pending and has been for a couple of months now.
We appreciate you bringing it on today and showing it to
Yeah,
us.
it's a sweet deal, but
But
yeah,
definitely, tell PJ and Cindy, all of our movie making
we have
friends.
friends
Yeah.
that make movies and stuff like that. That would definitely come in handy for those.
yeah,
people.
it's pretty exciting to try and take this concept idea to reality. I mean, it's very, very, very difficult.
Right.
A lot of people ask me about product ideas, and generally I just tell them, if you got a good product idea, just forget it, because I mean this is night and day,
Yeah.
night and day, night and day.
Yeah.
There's hardly any kind of life, because you have to be persistent. Like my attorney said, if you want this to happen, and we're finally starting to see it happen. We sell tools every day.
Yeah.
We probably sell, every once in a while we'll skip a day, but it usually makes up. I mean, we had, I think, 5 tools that went out today. 2 of them were going to the same place next day air. So, it's pretty exciting, to get this product, to take off. All the time at these trade shows, I draw such a huge crowd
Hmm.
because I've taken a problem and I've solved it with this bender. My customers are telling us that we now have the best cable bender on the market. My
That's
bigger
awesome.
bender for the 600 to 750 is the only manual cable bender on the market for that larger industrial size cable.
Wow.
And, they're really excited about the product when they come to the booth. They're telling me all about it and all their heartbreaks, of trying to get this cable. And they're like, where were you so many years ago? And all of that. But,
Right.
they were always seemed like they were always saying, "Hey man, you dude, you need to try and get this on Shark Tank." So
Oh,
I put the application in.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna at least be able to tell people I put the application in.
Right.
Well, a few weeks went by, Shark Tank called,
oh,
and I'm at the office, and she's like, "Hey Vince, this is Karen from Shark Tank." I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
And she's like, "Yeah, the producers and the directors are wanting you to send in this video on this product. They said that we're moving you past stage 1. We're ready to put you into stage 2 because you've actually got a product that's ready to go." They're pretty excited about it. So I put together the video and sent it in, and waited. And then I finally touched base with Karen a few weeks later. And she said, "Well, at this time, the directors are going to do something else." So, I'm hoping to put together another video,
Right.
maybe that is maybe a little bit more upbeat,
Right.
which would be somewhat of a difficult task for me.
Oh, I think you're doing just fine.
Oh, yeah. But, it's hard to get. I really have to focus on presenting this product to 5 people that's never seen it and
Right.
don't have a clue on how this product works. And then at the end of a 5-minute conversation, they understand totally. So I had to be very point to point.
Yeah.
This is the Bender. This is the different ways I sell it. This is the different ways I offer it, and this is the proper way to use it. And this is why you need it, and try and, promote the product. So, that was pretty exciting getting that call from those guys. And this is
imagine.
right after, we won the award at 2015 in San Francisco in October. Then
Right.
January, Karen from Shark Tank's calling me. Then about May or so, Owensboro Living Magazine did an article on the cable bender. And then right after that, the Messenger Inquirer come by, wanted to talk to me about the Shark Tank. So
Yeah, that's great.
just a lot of things, finally, going our way as far as trying to get this product out there. But
and then finally he came on to our podcast.
now I know I'm good to go.
Now
Right of the
you
creek.
are-
I can, man, I'm going to sleep good tonight. It's finally over.
He's like, oh, it's over. It's all over.
Yeah,
The
no.
career's over. No, I'm just kidding.
Ultimately, I think now that I've built the product up to where it's at,
Yes.
it's become the number 1 cable bender on the market. I'm looking to possibly retire as soon as possible. So, I'm hoping that maybe someday one of the big manufacturers be interested enough in the product. I'm getting concerned that we're going to be able to keep up with this momentum because it's starting to really snowball.
Right.
More and more people are finally hearing about it, and I'm getting a little bit worried on whether or not we're going to be able to keep up with that.
With the demand?
Yeah, that demand.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
that's a good worry to have.
it
though.
is.
It is.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm losing sleep over it. I wake up in the middle of the night going, okay, what tools do I need to get together today? And I get anxious, to go ahead and get up and get dressed. And it might be 2 a.m. And I'm
Right.
like, man, you got to lay back down because you'll be a zombie come daylight if you go down there. But it's not unusual to see me down there at night putting
Right.
tools together. I considered going back down there tonight once I leave here because my inventory is really low. We got hit by some big orders in the last couple of weeks. And it's like,
Right.
I have got to get down there and get this inventory back up.
Yeah, and it's just you to make them, right? So
Yeah, at the current moment it is.
Yeah.
Obviously my wife Kara's down there with me.
Mhm.
She's my business partner on this, and we're both down there on a daily basis. And she's putting the tools together as I manufacture them, get them powder coated. I've got a team of volunteers that I can kind of call in if my inventory is low. I've got 2 brothers that are retired. I've got a close friend that's retired from the power plant. And, I can bring those people in as I need to, or if needed to get my inventory built up.
Mhm.
I've got, 1 full-time employee that works with me on a daily basis. And, we work together. All of us do. Sometimes my wife will bring her sister in to help get the labels put on the tools.
That's cool.
If we got several of them to put together. Her sister will watch the office when we go to these trade shows, and monitor, the orders and make sure the orders are going out. And there's a lot of phone conversations
Sure,
going on
sure.
while we're out of town, you know.
It's great to have
So
that
and so
support
placed an
group
order.
so you can ease a
Oh.
little bit of the worry when you're
Oh
gone.
yeah. I mean, if I didn't have, you know, this ain't been just me doing this.
Right.
Initially I started it was my concept, you know, my
Mhm.
idea. And, you know, my son Austin was in the military, and he still had about a year and a half to go after I designed my prototype. Or he said, just hang on. As soon as I get back, we're going to build tools. So, you know, I just kept working on how to manufacture the tools more efficiently.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know exactly what kind of monies to ask for the tool. So, you know, I had to spend, I would take 10 tools and see how long it took to build the 10 tools.
Yeah.
So I could get an average of how much time it took per tool.
Right. Yeah.
And then I would put, you know, an hourly labor rate to it. And then I would include the materials that it took to put the tool together, and the cost of the label, and the cost of the dowels,
Yeah.
and all of that.
But you did it.
So,
You
Yeah.
got it all going.
so Mark Cuban, I know you're still paying attention to this in the shadows. He's
That's
growing.
right.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Vince, we got to say thank you so much for being on our show
Yeah.
today. We really appreciate it.
It was great to be here, guys.
And it was really awesome. I've learned a lot.
Me too.
And it's really the big thing I take away from this is that if you have an idea and you have a dream and you think, you know, I can really do this, persistence, hard work,
Yes.
get after it,
Yeah.
and you made your dreams
Yeah.
happen.
Get your butt up off the couch and get out there and stay out there.
And buy American.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. That's the number one thing here.
There you
guys.
go. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Escape Pod.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Escape Pod. If you enjoyed it, please like the episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you would like to be a part of future podcasts, then email us at outbreakpodcast@gmail.com. And be sure to visit our website, outbreakpodcast.com, for more episodes, show notes, photos, and other podcasts on the Outbreak Podcasting Network. That's outbreakpodcast.com.